giving you useful and practical tips to help you make more money selling travel. This is the Art of Selling Travel Podcast, and here to guide you through it all, your host, Glenda Beagle.
Hello. We are back. Okay, let's talk about irony. The last episode I recorded was about being busy, not productive, basically was how not to do burnout. And guess what this genius did? I burnt myself out, and it happened so fast. You know, for so many years, I always thought burnout was just, like I said, for the weak. It was for other people. It was not for me. Um, and I had let it build up for so many years that when the time finally came that I could actually acknowledge what it was that I was feeling, I was so burnt out that it took a couple of years to recover. And now I am so easily triggered. And when I go down, it's not a quick recovery. So that was one of the things. For if you're on my Insta stories, then you know I've pushed back my launch by like 6 days. So the good news is, if you haven't yet got on the wait list, artofsellingtravel.com/curious, you can get on the wait list as well and join us there. But yeah, I had to push it back by 6 days. I am a president of a local community board, and we've got a lot going on with that in terms of legal proceedings, things that were completely unnecessary, but ends up happening. And so it just, everything compiled. I said yes to too many things all at once. And chatting with a friend of mine, somebody from the industry, and she just said to me, she goes, something's got to give. And so I messaged her back and I said, I'm going to move my launch by 6 days. She goes, that's not what I meant. I said, I know, but this is what I need to do, because she had made the comment, you've got to show up fully for your people. And I said, I can't agree with that more. Like, I want to show up for you so deeply. And the more I wanted to show up, the more stressed I got and everything else. So I did it. I just moved it by 6 days. The good news is I was feeling really weird about having a launch, even though I moved it to the 12th of September, to do one right around September 11. It just didn't feel right. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to move it to September 18. I wanted to launch on a Monday anyways. And this just feels right. So in the moment, things might feel awkward and uncomfortable, but I want you to listen to that intuition, because there's probably a little nudge in there that's telling you what it is that you actually need to hear, not what you want to hear, but what you need to hear. Okay, moving on. I am super excited for this episode because it was one of those out of the blue episodes. I'm as of like 4 hours ago, wasn't planning on recording this episode, but a friend of mine messaged me and asked me a question, and I was like, I don't know. And then context got put into it, and I'm like, oh, well, this is what I would do. So here's how the conversation went. She asked me, what would you tell advisors are the questions that they should have before they go to a trade show, like at a trade event? I'm like, there's no time to ask questions. None of my questions were done at trade shows. They were all done at social events. And, especially when I closed my office, all of the reps I needed to know, or like the heads of companies, I knew more on a social level than anything else. And that's just from years and years of networking and getting to know them and having conversations with them and other such. So it wasn't trade shows necessarily. Now, if you've been to a travel trade show, then you know that the doors bust open and it's like somebody's released this herd of wild horses that just like plow through. And then the suppliers are there and they're like, take my card, take my card, take my card, take my card, leave your card, take my card, leave your card. And it's just back and forth and everything else. It is just absolute sheer chaos. I've actually had the pleasure now of working both sides, where I've been the travel advisor and just kind of like get swept along. And I've also worked on the other side, um, having either my own booth or working with somebody else and helping them out with their booth. And doesn't matter which side you're on, it's pure chaos. Like it's just out and out pure chaos. So based on that, I just said to her, I said, there's no time to ask questions. One, I don't think a lot of the business development managers that are out there doing these trade shows, they don't have the time and they definitely aren't going to go in depth. They are not going to go super in depth with you when there's 75 other agents standing behind you. So here's the scoop. She then said to me, she goes, well, at my event, she's going to be hosting an event for her ASTA chapter coming up in October. Actually, I'm going to be attending as one of their speakers. So if you are in the Pennsylvania area, you need to send me a DM and I will get you hooked up with a link to come and see me speak in person. Yes, I am real. And if you are anywhere near Pennsylvania, I'm actually going to fly into Toronto and drive down. Just side squirrel here. Somehow my speaking engagement has turned into National Lampoon's Vacation because my husband and my parents are coming along for what was a 2-day trip is now a 10, 12 day, I'm not sure anymore, road trip from Toronto down into Pennsylvania and back up again. So, but here's the thing. At that event, they're going to have one-on-one time. And I'm like, oh, whoa. That is entirely different. That is something that I can get behind. And so it actually from there, I started spewing ideas and conversations and this, that, the other. And so this is what I said to her. I said, one, they need to come in with a plan. And even if you're going to a trade show or you're going to something like this, or maybe you're going to a big conference like the Global Convention or something like that, where they have tons of breakouts, I cannot stress this enough. Do your homework ahead. Have a look at the suppliers that are going to be there. See which ones that you don't maybe know enough about. Do some research before you go. Don't wait until you get to the trade show to do the research then. Get to know them a little bit before, because especially when you have a one-on-one opportunity, don't waste those valuable moments with things you could have Googled in 5 minutes. Instead, get to know, okay, so this company does this company does that. Because the other thing is you're not guaranteed with one-on-ones, you're going to get to see every supplier. So it's really, really important that you're able to hone in on exactly which suppliers you want to talk to so that you get the most out of it. Because no matter what event you're attending, no matter if you paid thousands of dollars to be there or you got a free ticket, you have invested the most powerful resource in your business, your time. We need to make sure that when we're doing these things and we're investing our time, we're investing our money to attend these events, we're putting in that you're going to get something back for it. So like I said, do your research. Never go into a trade show, trade event blind. Know who it is that you want to talk to. Know what it is that you want to know. And then when you get that golden opportunity to talk to somebody in a one-on-one, I want you to know the answer to this question. What would it look like if? So not necessarily the answer to the question. How would you finish that question? What would it look like if I was to bring a group to Italy? I had a group that wanted to do this. What would it look like if I was to bring a country band on board your cruise ship? How would you be able to help me out with that? Can I tell you my biggest, most successful groups started as a conversation of, so what would happen if starting my own travel business when I was happily full-time employed by somebody else started with, well, what would happen if? There are amazing things that come out of that question. But when you get a moment to shoot your shot, and you're sitting with a president of a company. When I put together my Farms, Foods, and Factories of Italy tour, I happened to have been seated beside president of one of the amazing guided vacation companies of Canada. And him and I, we were just having a conversation. I think we were approaching into dessert even by the time he said, "So, what are you like? What would you want to work on? Like, if you could do anything, what kind of thing would you want to do? How could I help you?" And I just said to him, I said, "What would it look like? I've always had this idea. My mom's always wanted to go to Europe, in particular Italy, but I got to find a way to get my dad there." And he said, "Okay, well, what's your dad into?" I said, "Well, he's a cranky old farmer." And he's like, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, what would it look like? Like, is there any chance that we could ever do a farm tour with your company?" He goes, "Sure." And that's where the conversation went. And from there, we moved on. We went through all the ideas. We went through this, that, the other. And I ended up becoming one of their top salespeople that year because I said, what would happen if? So you need to know that everybody that you're going to sit in front of, how will you fill in the blank? If they say to you, "How can we help you?" Say, what would happen if? What would happen if I wanted to charter an entire river cruise ship? What would happen if my clients wanted to do overwater bungalows? Is that something you can help with? What would happen if I had a group of 40 single women? What would happen if I had clients that wanted to do a private tour in Africa? What would happen if? What would happen if you were prepared? What would happen if, when you went to your next conference, your next trade event, you narrowed it down to 3 or 4 suppliers that you had very specific questions for? What would happen if you put in the time on the one-on-ones when nobody else did? I can't tell you how many times I have built relationships. I have gotten to know suppliers. Our suppliers are one of our major stakeholders in what we do. They are our connection. Having a phenomenal relationship with your supplier is going to pay dividends for years to come. Showing them kindness and respect. Okay, don't even get me started on what went on the River Cruise Expo chat groups this past week as they opened it up for bookings. Oh my goodness. You might be their client, but I want you to ask yourself if you saw any of what went on. If you didn't see what was going on, congratulations. You are very lucky. But if you saw it, I want you to ask yourself, is that your ideal client? Would you want to work with that person? Because I assure you, our suppliers, yeah, there's a number of them that looked at that and went, "Oh, hell no." Never miss a one-on-one opportunity to build a relationship with a supplier, to deepen a relationship with a supplier, to build connection, not just with the supplier, but with the actual person. The people who are committed, the travel advisors who are committed to growing their business, never miss an opportunity to build connection with the suppliers. When I did my cruise, I'd gone on a cruise academy with our franchise, and I can't remember. I think it was like 200, maybe 300 advisors that were on there. Like, we were on the Oasis of the yeah, it was the Oasis of the Seas. Like, it was a giant, giant ship. And there was a whole lot of us in all of the different rooms. And I remember we did an entire half day of one-to-one, but we were also in port. And an incredible number, as in all but about 6 of us, took off and went exploring like they were on a vacation. And the 6 of us that didn't had all 30 suppliers all to ourselves. And out of that came the idea of, so what would happen if I was to find a band and bring them on board? Where would we be allowed to perform? What would it take to actually be allowed to perform in a public space? What would it look like if we wanted to do this? What could you offer? What could you create? What is our best options? What would you suggest? I was able to have in-depth conversations with multiple cruise lines. I was able to go through and figure out different ways of doing different things. I was able to get new ideas because we had that one-to-one time because everybody else was off having a good old time on vacation. Never miss the opportunity to build connection. When you go to a conference, it's not vacation. This is work. This is where you get what you're looking for. This is where all those amazing ideas come from. I hear it all the time. Well, I could never come up with that. I don't have the audience for that. I don't have this. I don't have that. And I don't. Da, 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 da. You know what? You can choose to believe that. Or you can choose to find the connections to build that up for you. When I stepped on board that Cruise Academy ship, I had no visions of booking a group. And by the time I got off that ship, I had not one, but 2 cruises booked, like groups. One of them was just a small family. I think, what was it, like 15 passengers? Not a big deal, but at the same time, 15 passengers. And the other one ended up being, I believe it was 87 passengers. What would it look like if you added 102 passengers to your booking list right now off of 2 files? What would it look like if you came up with a brand new idea and had a supplier that was willing to back you with it? What would it look like if that's for you to figure out? Okay, I'm going to leave you there. I thank you once again for showing up. I have to say that as of the beginning, okay, I'm going to take a minute for myself here, guys. It is because of you. You're listening to me. You message me in the DMs on Instagram, Art of Selling Travel. You tell me that sometimes it's like you're sitting at the kitchen table and that we're just having a conversation. Yes, I'm a little bossy. I get it. But you know what? At the end of June, I was telling a friend of mine earlier today, at the end of June, I think I had 2,100 and some downloads of this podcast. And I was ecstatic. It had taken me, now, obviously I wasn't consistent, but it had taken me close to 2 years to get to that point. Since the 30th of June, we have more than doubled the amount of downloads. It's because of you. You've downloaded this episode, you've downloaded the other ones, and you make my heart swell. Like, thank you. Today we crossed over 5,000 downloads. When I started this podcast, that number seemed undoable, like not possible. And then at the beginning of this year, I thought, nope, by the end of 2023, my stretch goal is to hit 5,000 downloads. Well, congratulations and thank you, because now I get to make myself new goals. And I want to say thank you. I don't like to make things about myself, but really to me, this one is all about you. And the fact that you choose to spend your time with me, I could not have more gratitude to you and for you. Thank you. Genuinely from my heart, thank you. Come see me over on Instagram, Art of Selling Travel. Otherwise, go join us over on Facebook at the Sticky Sales Scenarios Facebook group. It is facebook.com/groups/travel agent objections. Over there, we do live coaching every Friday. We answer calls, things like that. And in that group, I'm going to be posting a link. If you're listening to this within the week here, I'm going to be posting a link because I'm going to be doing a live Q&A call coming up on Saturday, September 16 of 2023. And I would love for you to join me on that call. And as soon as I get my link fixed, it will get posted in that group. Also going to be sending it out one last call for the wait list on artofsellingtravel.com/curious. And that's for the curious to booked. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I will be back next week. Till then, happy selling.